Hi everybody, welcome back to True Crime After Dark. So, I've seen a lot of you guys in the comments. A lot of you haven't even heard about this case and are just like, what in the world? Okay? A lot of you are confused about certain things, and a lot of you know a lot more than I do. But I figure for my channel, the best thing to do would be to rewind a little bit. This is a couple months old video, so if you've seen it, skip over it, but it's got so much good information about it. It's by Unapologetically Me. I couldn't play the beginning because it's got some song in there that gets copyrighted, even though they allow the music to be used. I don't know. Anyway, it's a pretty good video for us to listen to, and it's got some of the stuff from in this book. And I actually ordered this book and Dylan Tallman's book, so I could read it for myself. I want to know everything that's in there. But let's get into this video, because it's got a lot of stuff that I think it's important to know from ground up if we want to get Nichol Kessinger looked at. Because we are not here to try to get Chris Watts a new trial or reinvestigated, because he is exactly where he belongs. Okay, he deserves worse than what he is getting right now. But some people were not even interviewed, some people were not fully investigated, and others there was crimes covered up. So let's get into the video. Leave a like and subscribe. We have a great community here and would love to have you.
Entire truth. For one, this is only Chris's truth, not Shanann's truth. She will never be able to tell us her side of the story. But thanks to text messages off of her phone, we do have a lot of her story. But we don't have her side of the murder and what really happened that morning of August 13th, 2018. Chris also made it abundantly clear that there are pieces of his story that will never be told by him. He will take it to his grave. There is still so much to speculate on, especially after reading this book. I read it in 2 days, and I think that what is said within that book is very relevant to this series. So in part 2, that's what we're going to talk about. It wasn't planned, but it's happening because it's about as close as we can get to Chris's side. But again, remember, we are never going to know the whole truth. Even Chris admits this. Now, I'm not very big on scripture. While I am Catholic, and I even went to Catholic school as a kid and participated at church every Sunday growing up, as I got older, I moved more into my own spirituality and relationship with God, as opposed to the strict Catholic ways that I was brought up with. And the reason that I bring this up is because since being in prison, Chris Watts has become very spiritual and very close to God. This is in part because the first and only book he was able to read in jail while awaiting sentencing was the Bible.
So don't get it twisted though. Everyone in prison goes down the "they found God." Don't think that he wasn't out tomorrow. Then God who it would be. Everyone goes and get locked up and think they found God, and that's all they have to do in there. So it's nothing special. Don't look at it any better for that. He's going to face ultimate judgment.
Read it in 2 weeks, and now he often quotes scripture, whether in conversation or in letters and correspondence with other people. And one of the Bible verses that Chris told Sherilyn Cadle to read was in regards to Nichol, whom he refers to as Nikki. He told Sherilyn that if she reads Proverbs 7 verses 5 through 27, that's Nikki. And I'm going to read those verses to you because it sums up how he feels about Nichol Kessinger. And it also summed up my speculations as well. So it's Proverbs 7, 5 through 27. These verses in the Bible show a very sexual woman who is married but doesn't seem to care about the sacred bond of marriage at all. Now, I'm not sure which edition of the Bible he was reading from. This is the New International Version of Proverbs 7, 5 through 27, but it's basically about adultery. So here it is. They will keep you from the adulterous woman, from the wayward woman with her seductive words. At the window of my house, I looked down through the lattice. I saw among the simple. I noticed among the young men a youth who had no sense. He was going down the street near her corner, walking along in the direction of her house at twilight as the day was fading, as the dark of night set in. Then out came a woman to meet him, dressed like a prostitute and with crafty intent. She is unruly and defiant. Her feet never stay at home. Now in the street, now in the squares, At every corner, she lurks. She took hold of him and kissed him, and with a brazen face, she said, "Today I fulfilled my vows, and I have food from my fellowship offering at home. So I came out to meet you. I looked for you, and I have found you. I have covered my bed with colored linens from Egypt. I have perfumed my bed with myrrh, aloes, and cinnamon. Come, let's drink deeply of love till morning. Let's enjoy ourselves with love. My husband is not at home. He has gone on a long journey. He took his purse filled with money and will not be home till full moon." With persuasive words, she led him astray. She seduced him with her smooth talk. All at once he followed her, like an ox going to the slaughter, like a deer stepping into a noose till an arrow pierces his liver, like a bird darting into a snare, little knowing it will cost him his life. Now then, my sons, listen to me. Pay attention to what I say. Do not let your heart turn to her ways or stray into her paths. Many are the victims she has brought down. Her slain are a mighty throng. Her house is a highway to the grave, leading down to the chambers of death. My opinion? In this Bible verse, the woman is the one who is married, but the sentiment is the same. There is no value to marriage in the woman's mind.
Nope, sounds just exactly like Nichol Kessinger.
She knows that it's wrong.
Yep.
She tries to hide her indiscretions while her husband is out of town, but she doesn't care. She knows what she wants, and she goes after it. She doesn't think of the boy much either. It's not about him. It's all about her and her needs, wants, and desires. It's about lust. The woman has been known to do this to others, and the warning is clear. Do not follow her. Do not get caught in her web, for if you do, you will certainly be devoured. Her intentions are not pure. They are selfish and cruel, and no good will come of a relationship with her. What do you guys think? When it comes to the relationship between Chris Watts and Nichol Kessinger, I think what we can all agree on is that they appeared to get very close very fast. In part 1, I talked about who Nichol Kessinger was before Chris Watts. And while we, again, won't know the whole truth about Nichol Kessinger, there is evidence that she lied to law enforcement in regards to the seriousness of her relationship with Chris.
Oh, she had a shady past, too. She had prior run-ins. She lets out that she used to pawn things all the time during her police interview about this. She's not a very nice girl, put it that way.
She intentionally deleted things, text messages in particular, and she also admitted to telling Chris and her good friend Charlotte, whom was the only friend she says she talked to about Chris, to do the same. She intentionally misled investigators at every turn, and she was very good at manipulating her own questioning, steering the conversation away from the truth quite consistently and without any interference or pushback from Detective Kobach. It was extremely hard for me to follow her interviews because she would go off on these tangents, kind of like what I end up doing sometimes. She would go off on these tangents, and it's like she'd be asked a question, she doesn't answer that question, and then all of a sudden the topic is completely changed. And it takes sometimes 20 or 30 minutes for Detective Kobach to bring her back to the original question that was asked. It's my opinion that Detective Kobach became biased towards Nichol Kessinger, be it from her manipulations or something else. But I believe that very early on, Detective Kobach stopped being objective, if he even ever was.
I think that Detective Kobach was kind of worried because Daddy's in the room. Because if you notice, Daddy kind of takes over the whole investigation. He signs the paperwork for her, for the victim stuff. She asked, "Here you go, Dad, you take care of this." And he pretty much takes over the whole interrogation if you watch it. And she just goes off on all these rambles because she's lying. And she should have been arrested for tampering with evidence at the very least, and that would have brought more charges, guaranteed.
He became friendly with Nichol, and it was more about keeping a relationship of good cop with Nikki rather than calling out all of her bullshit inconsistencies. We're going to get into those inconsistencies in part 3 though, as well as text exchanges. Again, this is going to be a very long and very detailed series. So if you're liking it so far and you're interested, please, of course, hit the like button, but also make sure you hit the notification bell after you subscribe, because that's how you're going to get a notification when these videos come out. And speaking of inconsistencies, I know my uploads are somewhat inconsistent. It's all about how long it takes me to fact check, compile, edit, script. It's a lot. It's a lot for me, but
That's why I absolutely love her videos, because it's not a bunch of BS. You know that this stuff's been fact checked. And sometimes I fact checked her fact checking, and it's all turned out to be okay so far. So it's like my favorite go to channel, but she doesn't post a lot. So we'll do the part 3 next. I'll see. But there's a couple other videos I've been wanting to show you too, some with some new evidence. So I'm not sure which one we're gonna do next, but we'll see.
Anyway, let's keep going here. I think that it's important to talk about the type of boy that Christopher Watts was in his early years in order to gain some perspective into how he thought, how his mind worked. The Watts family was not a wealthy family. They weren't poor, but they definitely had to work hard for what they had. When Chris was born, Ronnie and Cindy didn't have maternity insurance, and Cindy stated that it took them 18 months just to pay for his birth. Chris also had a sister named Jamie who was 7 years old at the time Chris was born. Jamie was very excited to welcome her little brother into the family, and they grew up very close, and they are still close to this day. Another side note here, we'll be getting into the Watts family more later on in the series. Chris was more of his father's son. He absolutely adored his father and looked up to him. They bonded over cars and trips to places like Bristol, Tennessee, and Daytona, Florida. Chris was described as a happy child and was always very respectful. He was also an introvert. Christopher has never been openly affectionate or emotional. We saw this for ourselves and speculated about how he could be so unattached emotionally when his family was missing, even after he confessed, and throughout his sentencing, there was hardly any emotion shown. But according to him and his family, he was always that way. He got good grades in school, he loved sports, he never got into any trouble, and his father, Ronnie, coached his little league teams. His family was modest, but his family life was better than most. He was also very close with his grandmother. She was a German woman who was not very affectionate, but she loved Christopher deeply and taught.
We do all have to remember that he was overweight a good part of his life. Even when he married Shanann, he was overweight. And he had lost a lot of weight and was feeling ultra egotistical about himself, I guess. But yeah, he had started working out, eating better, everything towards the time of meeting Nichol Kessinger. But he had been overweight during younger days.
Taught him many things about life. He spent a lot of time with her while his mother was at work because she was the one who watched after him. In his teen years, Chris never dated. He was very socially awkward. He had 2 good friends growing up, and he never really ventured out from those 2 friends. In fact, they are still friends today, and these friends were very hurt by this tragedy. They were unable to believe that Christopher could do something like this. But while his other friends would go to parties and dances, Chris would stay home and watch television with his parents. He never drank or did drugs, and he got along with everyone. According to his mother, Cindy, he was too perfect of a teenager to be true. Christopher went to a Baptist church when he was growing up, and the teachings of this religion had him fearing that he would go to hell if he died while sinning. He seemed to take religion very seriously. His religion taught him that he could not drink, go to dances, or have sex before marriage. Christopher says he was afraid of God and put him, quote, in a box, unquote. Christopher felt that if he did anything to displease God, he could go to hell. But as long as he obeyed all of the rules and didn't sin, God would be pleased with him. Cindy recalled hearing Christopher in the bathroom repenting over and over to God for sins he felt he had committed, and said she never knew what those things were, but that he repeated himself in an OCD manner. After Chris graduated high school, he went to a NASCAR technical school. His dream was to work on car engines for NASCAR. However, he never managed to get on the circuit. He was always a hard worker. He was very proud of his accomplishments. Back then, money went a lot further than it does now, and at that time, he was bringing in about $2,500 a month, and he began saving money for his future, which he looked forward to. He wanted to get married and have children of his own. He had his own apartment, good credit, he was good with money, and he was always responsible with his bills. As an adult, he really didn't date much either. He says it isn't that he didn't like girls, because he says that he did. He was just extremely shy. When his cousin told him about Shanann, he wasn't very interested at first until he looked her up and saw her picture on Facebook.
So wait a minute. We're pretty much saying that Shanann was Chris's first girlfriend. That I never knew. I didn't know that he didn't do anything until he was married. Did you guys know that? Let me know in the comments, because I totally missed that. That explains why maybe he got so hooked on Nikki so quick. Nikki. Can't stand even saying her name.
He was blown away. To him, she was the most beautiful girl he had ever seen. So he sent her a friend request, which she did not accept at first. But Chris's cousin was Shanann's friend and told Shanann what a nice guy Chris really was. So Shanann accepted his request, and they became friends, and eventually they decided to meet. They hit it off. They dated for a couple of years before deciding to get married. Chris arranged for both sides of their families to be together at the beach when he proposed to Shanann. It was said to be very romantic. The ring was big and beautiful, and the two made a beautiful couple. They were married in November of 2012. Now, we know Shanann was a very public person, and eventually she was live on Facebook and social media many times throughout the day. Christopher says this was an area of stress for him. He did not want to be on camera, and many times Shanann would put him there spontaneously. While she loved being in front of people and in front of the camera, Chris, again, was an introvert, and he didn't like the attention. Shanann did portray them as a perfect, happy family and would often brag about how lucky she and the girls were to have Christopher.
I think she really thought she had the perfect family. I think that she was so just wanting everything to be perfect and wanting to portray to the outside that everything was perfect, that she didn't even notice until it was too late and Chris had already slipped away. He was already having the affair, and she noticed, hey, I might be overbearing. I might have belittled him, which doesn't give him any excuse to do what he did. But I just wanted to put that out there.
But the reality of the situation was much different. They had some pretty hefty financial issues, and while they both made a decent living, their debt had become a huge problem. Aside from medical debt, Shanann would often plan large parties in order to promote her business, where she would spend hundreds of dollars on one dinner party. According to Chris, it was very important to Shanann to appear well off. To Shanann, appearances were everything, and it's part of why they bought that huge house that they ended up not really being able to afford. Whenever these parties would take place, Chris would stay upstairs and entertain whatever children were there. That was his place, but he says he didn't mind much because he preferred to stay in the background anyway. And according to him, trying to keep up an appearance was kind of embarrassing for him. Christopher had become background noise. He was often brushed off or ignored by Shanann. Whether or not she realized how hurtful this was to Chris, we will never know. I personally don't think she was aware of how bad things were until North Carolina. And in her defense, she immediately started to change and was desperate to work things out and to fix their marriage. On June 22nd of 2018, Chris and Shanann went on a trip to San Diego with Thrive. It was right before this trip that Chris and Nichol Kessinger started to take the bit of flirting that they had been doing to the next level. Chris refers to Nichol as Nikki because she goes by Nikki. So Chris and Nikki actually made plans to meet up after Chris returned home from his trip to San Diego, which he says he didn't even want to take. This is the video that Shanann posted of them the day that they had arrived in San Diego. And you can see Christopher is trying to stay out of the way of the camera, and he didn't really appear to be happy to be there.
Hey guys, we're here from the boat today.
On June 26th, Shanann took the girls later that afternoon with her dad for a 5-week family visit to North Carolina. Chris would say he actually did not want her to go, but he never told her that he didn't want her to go.
We all know this is the beginning of him and Nikki being together 24/7 while Shanann was gone, and how she got to him, we will not know because it makes no sense, but here we go. It's a wild ride.
Eventually ended up joining them a month later for a week-long family vacation. Chris says that if Shanann had not gone on that trip, he doesn't think he would have had an affair, and none of this would have ever happened. He says that if Shanann had been home, he probably wouldn't have ever met up with Nikki at the park that day where everything began, or ever went out with her at all. But Shanann had no idea of what was going on. And again, Chris never told her to stay home. Shanann could never have known that family trip would set up the perfect opportunity for an affair to blossom between her husband and a coworker. It was just before that trip that Christopher learned of Shanann's pregnancy. In this video that Shanann posted online, you can see he is not as excited as you would think he should be, finding out that she's pregnant with their 3rd child.
That's just a test.
Perhaps that's because that same week he found out about the pregnancy, he had already begun to see Nikki. Chris says he was caught off guard by the pregnancy because while they were trying to have another baby, it had taken a very long time for Shanann to get pregnant with Bella and Celeste. He said the pregnancy made him feel even more guilty because he had just previously decided to have a more serious relationship with Nikki. At the time they planned to have another child, he had no idea that he would meet someone that would sweep him completely off his feet and make him regret that he ever even had a family. He felt he was not ready for this baby because mentally he was now with Nikki. When Shanann and the girls left for North Carolina, Chris was free to do whatever he wanted, and he wanted Nikki. Their relationship escalated fast, and Chris says as much as he tried to take things slow, Nikki was pulling him. Christopher said he was very caught off guard because he had never had a woman pursue him before. He says she lured him with lewd sex and sent nude pictures of herself on his personal phone. Nikki was definitely chasing him, even though she knew he was married and had 2 daughters. I suppose in fairness, she was told by Christopher that he and Shanann had both decided to separate, but as much as Nichol Kessinger would say that she did not know that Shanann was pregnant, it's impossible for me to believe that because she spent a lot of time looking up Shanann on Facebook and on the internet in general.
All the time.
Guess what, girls?
She spent a lot of time looking up, and constantly she was obsessed with this. So when she wasn't with Chris, she was watching this stuff. She knew exactly what was going on, and that is what is so sickening. What a home wrecking. Ugh, POS. I can't stand her. But she needs to go down, guys.
Mommy has a baby in her belly. Are you guys excited? Yes? Are you really excited? Oh my goodness. Come give me hugs. Oh. I love you, girl.
I got the baby a hug.
You want to give the baby a hug? I love you, Bella.
Shanann had many YouTube and Facebook videos that Nikki most likely saw because she Googled for Shanann's Facebook specifically. And as we've already covered, Shanann's Facebook account was very public. Nikki said she did not have Facebook or any other social media, but you wouldn't need to have Facebook to see any of Shanann's Facebook posts. One of the things Chris admits to in this book is that really bad things went on in Nikki's house. Things he is very ashamed of. Some of the things Christopher says he will take to the grave with him. And I have to say, I am so intrigued by this. That is such an out of left field thing to say. I mean,
I think that's referring to the occult and all her crystals and her magic stuff. Check out that video. Just did a couple days ago, but there's another video I'm going to do on it too. I didn't believe in all that black magic, voodoo, crazy stuff, but it's not so crazy. I've actually looked into it, and I mean, if you use it for the right reasons, I don't know. I'm not going to say one way or the other, but that's what he's talking about here. I know it. Is her being in that dark, occult background. Her and maybe her dad, even.
Is it not? Really bad things happened at Nikki's house. Things that he's very ashamed of. So ashamed of that apparently he will take it to his grave, even though releasing some of that would actually be the best thing for him to do. And the first thing I thought about when I read this was about some searches that were found on Nichol Kessinger's phone on the evening before that last date they went on August 11th of 2018. Taken directly out of Detective Michael Prill's discovery. On August 11th of 2018 at 9:30 a.m., Detective Prill wrote, "In anticipation for her evening with Watts, Kessinger spent 45 minutes searching Google on topics like, quote, how to prepare for anal sex, unquote, and, quote, the anal sex guide, unquote." This progressed to searches at Pornhub for interracial porn videos and, quote, threesomes with double penetration, unquote. Yeah. He also makes a note that this was by no means the only time she had sought out pornographic videos on the internet. Now, obviously, do what you want to do, right? But I find it very interesting that she searched those types of things. And also, Chris talks about very dark things happening at her house. And she searched for those things on the morning before she went on a date with Chris, where they ended up at her house. So we're going to get more into this because threesomes with double penetration to me says one girl, two guys, right? So who would have been the other guy? Many people.
What do you guys think? Who would be the other guy? I would say maybe Jim. I would probably go with Jim.
People say it was Jim. But like I said, we'll get into that. That's not what we're doing in this video. But I am aware of it, and yes, I will get to it. And so she seemed to be into porn. She seemed to be into sex. All different kinds. She seemed to be have a very colorful sex life, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But I do find it intriguing. I would like to know what, I mean, I don't need all the details, but did a threesome occur? What occurred there? What is so dark that he will not even like confess in order to get it out so that he can put it behind him? I don't know. Okay.
That's why I think it was a little bit darker than just the sexual stuff.
Chris appears to have left for that date on August 11th, a little bit after 7 p.m. We do know that they went to the Lazy Dog to eat because Shanann found out how much he spent that night, and that caused an argument. And then Chris returns home that evening about 3 hours and 20 minutes later. Just after Chris left Nicole's house that evening at 10:04 p.m., Detective Prill notes this search. Having concluded her evening tryst with Watts, Kessinger searched the internet on topics like Chris Watts, Shanann Watts, Ronnie Watts, and 2825 Saratoga Trail. Now, in my opinion, this is the search that I think is where Nikki found out that Shanann was pregnant with the son that she told Chris she wanted to have with him. Of course, that is entirely speculation. If I could fill in the blanks with my opinion, it would be that Chris and Nikki probably had a conversation about how Nikki needed to refrain from looking up Shanann because it would just cause fights between Nikki and Chris. But after that date, whatever happened on it, Nikki couldn't help herself. Again, that's speculation. But I'm also wondering if that 111-minute phone conversation that took place the night before Chris murdered his entire family contained a conversation about that. According to Chris, one of the things that phone conversation did contain was phone sex. But no matter what, It seemed that Nikki stalked Shanann, possibly even in person. I mean, who knows? But I think it is fair to say that Nichol Kessinger knew who Shanann was. She knew the woman she was up against. Meanwhile, Shanann had no clue that she was in a competition for her own husband. Christopher was drawn to Nikki. He enjoyed being with her. She cared about how he felt about things. She cared about what he thought and would ask his opinion, which is something that he was not used to. And what Chris needed the most. It wasn't the sex, for the most part, that pulled him in. He was much more in love with the way Nichol treated him and made him feel like a man again. Nichol Kessinger validated Chris Watts' masculinity and gave him the feeling that she adored and looked up to him. She valued what he had to say. He felt respect from her, and he did not want to let that go. At all costs, he determined to hang on to someone that caused him to feel like he had never felt before. It is quite possible, and it is my opinion, that Nikki knew exactly how to play Chris, and she played him like a grand piano. But at the end of the day, Christopher felt like he had a voice with Nichol Kessinger, one that he did not have with Shanann. He described being afraid to be himself around Shanann, and he never offered his opinion, nor was he ever asked how he felt about anything. He made a comment that he couldn't even hang anything on the wall in their house without Shanann getting mad about it. And it's very possible that Shanann had always been that way. But when Nikki came into the picture, Chris says that the control and the bossiness seemed to have led him where he couldn't even talk to Shanann about things that were vital to their marriage. Christopher says he had never even considered having an affair or that there was anything wrong with his marriage until he met Nikki. He wasn't looking for an affair, but Nikki was too much for him to resist. Nikki appeared to have pulled out every stop to seduce and intoxicate Chris. He spent almost all of his time with Nikki the entire month of July. He practically lived at her house. He had almost zero time to think about what he was even doing. He says that when he was with Nikki, he didn't even think about his family, as though he didn't even have a family. When he did think about them, he felt very guilty. Nikki knew this, and it's the reason Christopher, in his own words, had to, quote, talk her down off the ledge, unquote, more than once. Nichol Kessinger made herself the victim in this situation instead of seeing it for what it was. And the final kicker she pulled was telling Chris that she wanted to give him his first son. She knew she could get Christopher to feel bad for her by telling him that they didn't have any firsts together, which actually wasn't true.
How sickening is that, though? She knows Shanann is pregnant with a son. That statement alone shows where her mind was at. You understand? I mean, this woman was sick. She knew what she wanted from the beginning. How was she going to have a first son if Shanann was pregnant? I mean, what was the whole point in even saying that? She had her intentions, and I think she led Chris down this path, and I think she needs to be... You guys know what I think.
Because she shared his first affair with him, but it would appear that Nikki felt that Shanann was ruining her life, not the other way around. Shanann became the other woman in Nikki's mind. According to Chris, after Nichol said she wanted to give him his first son, that is when the idea to take the lives of his family began. He says he didn't want to, but he knew it was going to happen, and he did nothing to fight those feelings. Nikki had a group of friends that Chris says were involved in some very dark things. He says he can pinpoint a time that he could feel himself get darker on the inside. On August 5th of 2018, when Christopher was visiting his family in North Carolina, he had already started to plan what he was going to do to his family when he got back to Colorado. In an effort to make Shanann look bad, he told his family that if he ended up dead, they should have the authorities look at Shanann. His sister Jamie told him to put that in writing, and he wrote a letter stating such, and this is that letter. If you've been keeping up with the case, then you know that Shanann did not get along with Chris's mom, Cindy, nor his sister, Jamie. The contention started before Chris and Shanann were even married, while they were planning their wedding. What we have learned about Shanann's personality is that she comes across as a type A personality. Very organized, very ambitious, maybe a bit controlling. My opinion on that is that if you're in a relationship with someone who relinquishes all of their control, you really don't have a choice but to step up and be the one that controls things. Shanann wanted Chris to step up and be a man, but she never really was able to let go enough to allow it. And Chris will even admit he should have put his foot down and told her, look, I don't like the way you're treating me. I feel ignored. I feel emasculated. I feel unappreciated. But he was never able to say those things. Therefore, the dynamic couldn't change. And Shanann had no idea the gravity that dynamic ended up having. Chris wanted things to change, but he never expressed it. Partially because until Nikki, he didn't even realize his true feelings about the way Shanann was treating him. That whatever dynamic they had in place was working. His family would say that they felt that Shanann was very controlling and that she would treat him disrespectfully, and that's part of why they didn't really get along with her. But I mean, from Chris's perspective, it would appear that the family dynamic was comfortable. Shanann would handle everything. He would go to work. He would take care of the girls. He would go on these trips with her that she earned from Lavelle. I mean, I'm not so sure that he was super unhappy. But when he met Nichol and started telling her some of these things, it would appear that Nikki was the one who pointed out, wait a minute, what? She controls all the money? She tells you what to do, and meanwhile she's ignoring you and blowing you off, So I really do feel that while Chris may have had his own feelings about certain things in regards to their relationship that he would have liked to be different, at the same time, I don't think he was at his breaking point with any of it. I don't think he was consciously aware. It is my opinion that Nichol Kessinger not only helped Chris to realize he had issues with Shanann, but also helped him to build resentment towards Shanann.
Exactly. She majorly went off on that that Shanann had OCD, and that she just never let him be a man, and I'll let you be a man. Come on, come here, Christopher. It's just went out of her way on those little quirky videos you see of her. Oh, thanks for coming out here with me, Christopher. It's just the way she talked to him. And just the more I learn, the more it just, that's why I want you guys to watch this video, because this is what I learned most of it on. And then the research that I've done has all backed this up and found more out. So it's a long video, guys, so watch it in 2 parts, or I might separate it in 2 parts. We might stop at an hour and then do the next hour and 20 minutes tomorrow.
Nikki pointed out every fault within Chris and Shanann's relationship, while simultaneously showing Chris what she could offer him if he chose to be with her. Nikki learned all about Chris and what he wanted out of life, as well as what he felt was missing in his relationship with Shanann, and she made sure to cover all the bases. The fact that Shanann didn't even know Chris was having all of these negative feelings about their relationship, coupled with the fact that she didn't know she had a runner-up who was actively training for her role as Chris's new woman, was even more devastating. Shanann didn't even have a chance. The more she called Chris out, the more he resented her, and it was easy for him to build resentment, thanks to Nikki and all of her input, as well as her seduction. Nichol did a fantastic job convincing Detective Kobach that the relationship between her and Chris was laid back and not super serious. According to her, she and Chris were just feeling each other out, and at the end of the day, Nikki could have just walked away from this relationship at any point that Chris told her that he wanted to fix his marriage. She seems to have even convinced herself of this. She believed her own bullshit, and this is where educational purposes time may be helpful, because I have the opinion, and I truly believe, that Nichol Kessinger is a pathological liar. We hear that term a lot, but what does it really mean? Wikipedia definition of pathological lying, also known as mythomania and pseudologia fantastica, Latin for fantastic pseudology, is a chronic behavior characterized by the habitual or compulsive tendency to lie. It involves a pervasive pattern of intentionally making false statements with the aim of deceiving others, sometimes without a clear or apparent reason. Individuals who engage in pathological lying often claim to be unaware of the motivations behind their lies.
I think Chris Watts and Nicole both had a pathological lying problem. They both did. And they didn't get their story right because this didn't end up right at all. And who is that talking to Nichol Kessinger right there? All right. The victim lady, I think. Okay. All right, let's continue. Sorry.
Chris and Hart defined a, quote, persistent, pervasive, and often compulsive pattern of excessive lying behavior that leads to clinically significant impairment or functioning in social, occupational, or other areas, causes marked distress, and poses a risk to the self and others, as well as occurring for longer than 6 months. Psych Central had some information about some mental health conditions that may be associated with patterns of pathological lying. These include antisocial personality disorder, where a person may tend to lie for status, resources, or sympathy; borderline personality disorder, which a person may tend to lie to avoid rejection or abandonment; factitious order or Munchausen syndrome, as well as Munchausen syndrome by proxy, where a person may lie to appear sick or to have someone in their care appear sick; and narcissistic personality disorder, which a person may tend to lie to get something out of someone else, to preserve a false sense of self, to get out of trouble, or to bolster others' perceptions of them. Now, I'm not a professional, and I wouldn't even attempt to try to diagnose someone with any disorders. I'm just reading what I find. Also, according to Psych Central, you may be talking with a pathological liar if you notice extensive and unrequested details, colorful, fantastical, dramatic narratives, repeated changes to the story, signs of anxiety while talking, defensiveness when confronted, dodging questions or providing vague answers. Your recollection of events is different from theirs, such as feeling gaslit. They talk the talk but don't walk the walk. They retell a story that happened to you and pass it off as their own, which we saw a lot in the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trial, of Amber Heard taking the story from her assistant and passing it off as her own while on stand, as if it happened between she and Johnny. Yes, I also covered that trial, so that's way back in my stuff, in case you're interested. And the last thing is, your gut instinct tells you that something's off with their stories. If you have a pattern of pathological lying, you may lie indiscriminately about a wide range of topics, tell untruths about minor events, feel undeterred by the fear of getting caught, experience a rush when you get away with lying, and continue to lie, even when confronted with the truth. I think at some point in time, we have all met someone who we could consider to be a pathological liar. It's those people that seem to lie about everything, even things that don't matter, where it's like, did you use the last of the coffee creamer? And the person's like, no, but they did use the last of the coffee creamer, and you know you're not crazy because there's only 2 of you and you didn't use it. And it's like, why would you lie about that? Like, just say yes and we'll go get more. Like, why would you lie about that? I've had experience with people like that, and I feel like if someone can lie about the small things, then they're probably lying about bigger things, and that's kind of like my cue of, I don't trust you, right?
Yeah, mine too.
Let's move
Definitely.
on, because it was also stated in this article that 13% of people admit to being pathological liars, which I actually found to be kind of funny, because based on the definition, wouldn't most pathological liars lie and say that they're not pathological liars? I mean, who would want to admit that? Especially when you really don't have a lot of control over your lies. They just kind of spill out of your mouth. So I'm pretty sure that the percentage of pathological liars wandering the streets is a lot higher than just 13%. I'm not entirely sure that Nichol Kessinger fits every description, but I don't think she has to. I mean, she's been caught in many of her lies because there's evidence that contradicts much of what she says during her interviews. But again, please remember, I'm not a psychologist, nor am I a psychiatrist or a professional in anything mental health related. This is just my opinion based on what I see, what I've learned, and what I do know from experience. Okay, let's keep.
And if you guys understand, we all have the same opinion on this. From looking at the interviews, from hearing everything. I mean, why hasn't she been at least been investigated? I cannot wait till 2029. That's all I got to say. I'm going to have some paperwork ready, and I know a lot of other people are too.
Going with the book. I want to reiterate that the purpose of me adding the contents of this book into this series is because I wanted you guys to know Chris Watts' side of the story, the one that he did not tell investigators, the story that comes straight from the horse's mouth, that horse being Christopher Watts. Several stories were highlighted in the media about Shanann and Christopher's family problems and financial problems. There are also many channels on YouTube out there that discuss Shanann Watts in detail. The way that she was with her kids, the way that she was with Christopher. People have a lot to say about many of the home videos and the live streams that Shanann did with her kids. They point out some pretty disturbing things. I did go down that rabbit hole as well, and we will get into some of those things later on in a different part. I just want people to be aware that I am aware of some of these allegations out there about Shanann Watts. Like I said at the beginning of this series, we do not victim blame. Shanann Watts was a mother. She was pregnant. She did not deserve what happened to her. Period. That being said, there is a community of people who believe that Chris Watts told the truth in his first confession, that Shanann was the one who killed the girls. And there is a reason that those people have that opinion. If you see in the comment section people sharing that opinion, I just want to make everybody aware that there's a reason that those individuals have that opinion. And it's because of these channels. But again, that's a whole video in itself, one that I will create later on in this series. But it is known that Christopher's family still believes that very first confession as well, that Chris is protecting Shanann's name because he feels so much guilt about the affair and possibly driving her to her breaking point. That none of this would have happened had he not had an affair with Nichol Kessinger. I do think it's important that we dig a little bit into Shanann's relationship with Chris's family, specifically Cindy and Jamie. Again, this is from Chris's perspective. Okay, so I told you that Shanann had issues with Chris's mother and sister. In this book, Chris explains how that came to be. Again, keep in mind throughout this video that everything I'm saying is from this book, which also came from Chris's mother, who also spoke with Sherilyn Cadle in the creation of this book. When Shanann and Christopher got engaged, they had an engagement party. During the planning of that party, Chris's sister Jamie offered to help. Shanann had a list of things that she wanted done, and Jamie offered to help with the invitations for the engagement party. Her job was to address and mail out the invitations. However, on the day of the engagement party, most of the friends that Shanann had invited didn't come. And the next day, Shanann made some phone calls and found out her friends never even got the invitations. So Jamie was accused of never mailing them out. Jamie says that she sent them. This is one of the first things that created a rift between Shanann and Chris's family. Shanann had also asked Jamie to be a bridesmaid in her wedding and for Jamie's daughter to be a flower girl. The week before the wedding, Shanann made an appointment for all of the girls in the wedding party to have their nails done at a spa, and Jamie did not attend. It was said that because of Jamie's work hours, she was unable to meet them at the spa. But after that, Shanann told Jamie that she and her daughter were not going to be in the wedding. Yet the dresses had already been purchased, the money to be in the wedding had already been spent, so Because of this, Cindy, Ronnie, Jamie, and the rest of the Watts family did not attend the wedding. Cindy.
What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. You think it was sabotage by his sister because of what had happened earlier? Or do you think that it was a legit mistake, that the invitations just didn't get to Shanann's friends? Did she just want Chris's side there, maybe? I don't know. But that's not really what we're trying to aim at tonight, so let's continue.
He does say, however, that they have always regretted not going to the wedding. Christopher has said that he forgave his parents, but it did deeply hurt him and Shanann that they chose not to come. Another thing that came out was an incident that happened very shortly before the murders while Shanann and the girls were visiting in North Carolina. You may have heard of it. It was an ice cream debacle that Cindy Watts calls Nutgate, where Cindy had been blamed by Shanann for trying to kill Celeste. According to Cindy and Jamie, Shanann was at their home during her 5-week visit, and this happened on a weekend that Shanann was at the Watts house during this 5-week visit. The only people who were there were Cindy, Shanann, Ronnie, and all the grandkids. Jamie said she had dropped her kids off on her way to work, so she said she wasn't there when the ice cream came out. Yet, the story Shanann told was Jamie was not only there, but that she came into the house and put out a bowl of tree nuts in front of the kids. Cindy and Jamie said this did not happen. Ronnie, who was also there, said he was very caught off guard with how this argument escalated. The story Shanann's mother had told is not exactly the way Cindy and Jamie tell it. So allegedly what happened, according to Cindy Watts, was that the oldest granddaughter, Jamie's daughter, who was 11 years old, went into the kitchen and got ice cream from the freezer, which Cindy said was one of the small vanilla cups. They had to be careful about the ice cream because of the factory that it was made in, because 2-year-old Celeste was allergic to tree nuts, which are almonds, pistachios, pecans, walnuts. It was not a peanut allergy. Peanuts grow in the ground, so that is not one of the nuts that she was allergic to. Christopher said that the allergic reactions that Celeste had from tree nuts were rashes and breathing problems, and they were also told that each reaction can get worse over time. With Celeste already having asthma, I'm pretty sure Shanann was afraid of her having a bad reaction where she would end up having severe trouble breathing. Any mother would be careful about any allergy that her child has, especially one that is so severe that a doctor recommends that she carry around an EpiPen. But
Oh, let me tell you, if someone knew about my daughter's allergy, that it could really harm them and gave them something anyway, it would have been on. So I am totally on Shanann's side about that. I mean, that's horrible. And if she says something to her about it, why argue? Why argue back with the mother? She knows best. Mothers know best, man.
Anyway, that granddaughter went to the freezer, took out an ice cream cup. She sat next to Celeste and was eating the ice cream and was not made to move while eating it, as Shanann felt she should have been. It was also said that Celeste, seeing her older cousin eating this ice cream, wanted some and couldn't have it and began throwing a fit, to where Cindy told Celeste, "You can't always get what you want," in a very condescending manner. Now, this comes from Shanann, but Shanann felt it extremely out of pocket to say to a 2-year-old who all she wants is to have what her older cousin is having. Telling her you don't always get what you want in a condescending manner is not exactly the right way to handle it. And that's what Shanann felt. Christopher said he doesn't think Cindy ever really believed that Celeste had an allergy to nuts. And Cindy said she didn't even know that her granddaughter had gotten the ice cream out. So how could she have stopped this entire thing? Here's a Facebook post of what Celeste's reaction rash looks like, which, to be honest with you, that alone would be enough for me as a mom to be extremely careful and maybe even a bit paranoid when sending my child anywhere that she could potentially have this happen to her. But the argument that ensued after this incident was quite severe. It was almost like the last straw for Shanann. And if it all happened the way that Shanann says that it did, and because Cindy really didn't believe that Celeste had this allergy, as Christopher also has said, then I can't blame her for cutting ties at that point. Did she overreact? I don't know. That's in the eye of the beholder, I guess. It's all about your opinion. But regardless, Shanann had many experiences between Cindy and Jamie throughout the years that seemed to almost appear as though they were purposely pushing her buttons. That's just my opinion though, and again, we will get into more of Nutgate and some of the other allegations that have been made in a different video.
Oh yeah, they knew when Chris met up with Shanann in North Carolina, he admitted to his mom and dad that he knew that he was having an affair on Shanann. And they supposedly gave Chris their blessing. I mean, gosh, they should have said, no, what are you doing? At least get a divorce first, something. They could have said something. That's so crazy.
I'm really trying to stay focused on Nichol Kessinger, but it's very hard to not at least explain where some of these things came from. I obviously need to give perspective to those that don't know everything, and I hope I'm able to do that. I hope I'm doing that.
All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and watch the next hour. Are you guys going to stick with me, please, and watch this? Because, hey, it's 11:30 at night. My kids are asleep, ain't got nothing to do, and this is an important video. It lays the groundwork for everything you need to know, and it's about to get into the Nichol Kessinger stuff. So, all right, if you're with me, let me know you're with me in the comments.
I'm not just confusing the shit out of everybody. Anyway, the last time the Watts family ever saw their grandchildren was that time, and even Chris felt the wrath of that argument. He was placed smack dab in the middle, and he wasn't even there. Shanann sent text messages to Chris about the incident where you can just feel her emotion and her anger. The way she talks is almost like, I've had it. This was the last straw. Enough is enough. When you start messing with my kid's life, you've crossed the line. While Shanann was compiling a text message to Christopher for what would seem the entire night that would explain her side of things and the way she was feeling, Chris was busy receiving nude photos of Nikki and storing them into his calculator app. You can see where his head was as plain as day within this discovery. Also, around the same time, whatever conversation that Chris and Nikki were having, it inspired her to begin to search for wedding dresses. At 3:36 a.m., Shanann finally sent a very lengthy text message to Chris, which read, quote, "Truth came out last night. I didn't create no dagger between you and your dad. That was done by your mom, and your dad and I won't change a thing. My daughter's life is way more important, and you better believe I wanted to say a whole lot more than I did. But I was being the bigger person and protecting Bella. I didn't tell your dad not to come to the party. I didn't tell him not to text or call your daughter on her birthday. I didn't tell him to start acting like he only has 2 grandkids instead of 4. I didn't block your family on Facebook. He did. Myself and your kids have nothing to say to them. They do. They owe your kids their life. Your parents' home isn't a safe zone. Your mom isn't safe. You can let them tell you what you want, but I didn't tell anyone to stop loving your kids or to stop acting like it. He did that, not me. You can believe I created this dagger, but I didn't do that. I stood up for our kids. I advocated and protected our children. I don't ever want to hear, quote, I'm sorry I killed your kid because I was stupid, unquote. That would kill me. These kids are my world, and I have to protect them from the evil of the world. I shouldn't have to protect them from evil family. Our kids deserve the same love and attention that the other kids get, nothing less. I'm not accepting I'm sorry from your mom because she doesn't mean it, and I knew exactly what she was doing. I made it very clear not to eat it around Celeste because she doesn't understand, way before that happened. She is evil and willing to risk your daughter's life just to get under my skin. You and your dad are no different if you are okay with her behavior. There's nothing wrong with me, and I'm not crazy. I just love my kids way too much. From the day I left, you never said I missed you before I said it. Something changed when I left. You may be happier alone, and that's fine. You can be alone. This pregnancy, you have failed to acknowledge it or to acknowledge how I'm feeling. The first trimester is the scariest and most dangerous, yet we can lose this baby at any point till delivery. I'm not going to be treated this way for having the balls to protect our family and kids. I should get a gold fucking medal for handling it the way that I did, because I had a lot of choice words I wanted to say to her and your dad for his stupidity. No one stands up to your mom and your dad for that. He's just as guilty by not doing anything. I have nothing to do with him stopping sharing memories of his grandkids. What does that have to do with me? They are fucking with our kids' feelings, and I'm not okay with that. I am their mother, and I will protect them. I have enough to worry about with the world out there. I'm not going to worry about family. I'll just remove it. It is possible, in my opinion, that this text message helped Shanann be able to possibly sleep for a few hours, but she added to it again at 5:13 a.m. with, quote, I also don't control what you do. If you want to hang out with your parents today, by all means, do so, but without us. Don't put it on me why you can't go. You are your own person, unquote. At 7:26 a.m., Chris replies to Shanann, quote, these kids mean the world to me and always will. Yes, my mom truly screwed up in a huge way. More than a huge way. I don't know what I would have done if something happened to Cece. These kiddos are the light of my life, and seeing their sweet, incredible smiles and playfulness makes me smile every day. I'm sorry for the way I've been acting. It's just been in my head, and I haven't been right at all. It's just been in my head. He's trying to say that the argument is what's messing with him. This text exchange continues sporadically throughout the rest of August 4th. Chris eventually stops responding, and Shanann appears to give up too because there's no more correspondence between them for the rest of the day. But around 2:10 in the afternoon, Nikki searched Google both for Chris and Shanann's Facebook accounts. In my opinion, she's probably trying to see if they're posting anything together that would show that they're happy together. That's just my opinion, and you won't convince me otherwise when it comes to Nichol Kessinger. She never had any hopes that they would rekindle anything, and she made damn sure she wasn't going to give them a chance for that to happen, no matter what she told Detective Kobach. Chris said that he took all of this Nutgate situation very seriously, and Shanann realized that she needed to fix this breach between her and her in-laws because in her mind, she could see it really eating away at Chris. Though Shanann had no way of knowing that while that whole incident was just another tick on Chris's reasons list for why he wanted out of their marriage, it was not the main thing on his mind and really had nothing to do with his behavior. Shanann felt that may have been why Chris was so distant with her when he came out to North Carolina, and she was determined to fix it. She shared through text messages with her friend that maybe she had gone too far this time, and Chris was just sick and tired of having her pit him against his family. Christopher knew that his parents weren't perfect, but he didn't like the demands that Shanann put on him to not see his family, or to not allow his kids to see his grandparents. He was not okay with what Shanann had done to him in making him shut his parents out of their lives. He said she had flat out told him he could not call or see his parents again. This was not the first time that Shanann had told him that, but now Chris was already 1 foot out of the relationship and 1 foot closer to telling Shanann that he was done with her. Family was extremely important to Christopher, and all he ever really wanted was for things to be good between Shanann and his family, and he didn't see any reason that it couldn't be that way. Christopher said he knew from the beginning that Shanann did not really care for his mother and his sister, and that they did not care for her. And he blames himself for allowing it to go on for as long as it did. He says he should have confronted it, but he never did. He always sided with Shanann because he knew if he didn't, there would be trouble. Even still, to this day, the Watts family deals with people who hate them for the crime that their son committed. The Watts believe that their daughter-in-law had just killed their granddaughters because at that time, all of the information they had was what Christopher had told them, which was that he killed Shanann because he caught her killing the girls. That is what Christopher told his father, and that is what Christopher told investigators.
And that is what he ran with for quite some time. And I think it didn't even come out public until the plea agreement that he took. I don't think he really, even after, no, it took the plea agreement, right? Before the plea agreement that's come out. But they had to publicly come out and apologize. And I'm not sure if that happened before or after, but they publicly came out and apologized to Shanann's family, everything for going down even that rabbit hole of her hurting her kids. Of course, that would never happen.
What many people don't realize is that that confession was the last time that Ronnie saw his son or even talked to him until the day before sentencing. And when they saw him that day, the only thing that Chris would tell them is that he was pleading guilty for a reason. Going into the sentencing of Christopher Watts, his family still had no idea what exactly happened. They were still going off that first confession. Just as Shanann's parents knew that she wasn't capable of hurting her girls, the Watts family questioned how Christopher could be capable of this. Since he had never shown any signs of violence, he adored his girls. They were his life. We know that the Watts family did not attend the funeral for Shanann, Bella, and Celeste. Many of us speculated why that was, but it was said that Ronnie made a phone call to one of the family members and was told that it might be best if they didn't go. They were told that the media was everywhere, and if they came down, most definitely they would have been attacked by the media. It wasn't told to Ronnie in a malicious way, just kind of in a way to watch out, watch your back. If you come down here, it's a media circus and they're probably going to be making things difficult for you. So they said they didn't want to make a scene or make it harder on anyone, so they made the decision to stay away. But they did have a service of their own with friends and family, which they say was very beautiful, yet very sad. All I can say is that the whole thing is unfortunate, especially that they didn't attend the funeral. Both of these families were completely torn apart by this tragedy, and it's unfortunate that when they should have been supporting each other and giving each other strength, this tragedy only further pushed them in separate directions. The author of this book said that some of the things that have been said about Shanann are very cruel. They're very filled with hate. And Christopher agreed with Sherilyn Cadle that he did not want those things written about Shanann because she does not deserve it. Now we're going to get into Chris's side of the finances because we do know that was another issue that very well was listed as a motive. Again, this is all from Chris, and we do not have Shanann's side of this particular story, so just remember that. According to Christopher, Shanann controlled all of the money that came into the house. He says this is because there was a time when he sold a four-wheeler that they couldn't afford and didn't get enough money back to pay off the loan for that four-wheeler, which was the purpose for selling it. After that, Shanann didn't trust him with money anymore, and she never allowed him to have anything to do with money after that. Though Christopher is a little unclear about that being the real reason she didn't want him to touch the money, or if it were because she didn't want to answer for what she spent.
I don't know. I think that'd be pretty crushing to a man to not let him take any control of finances. That had to have crushed him, his ego. I mean, I don't want this to make anybody feel sorry for Chris. Please don't, because there's no reason to whatsoever. This is just a background so you guys know everything and we're on the same point from here on out.
Bella and Celeste were enrolled in a school that cost $25,000 a year. Shanann also liked to shop, sometimes spending most of her check without having paid on her obligations first. Christopher said they couldn't afford things like this. Shanann would sometimes turn around and put a lot of the money that she made back into Thrive. She also had Christopher withdraw $10,000 from his 401k to catch up on house payments that they were behind on. Christopher says he believes that that's what she did with that $10,000, but he doesn't even know for sure. Chris said that Shanann was the type to always find a way, but that the way things were going, they may have lost their home before they could sell it. According to Christopher, Shanann controlled everything in the house, and this was a huge problem for Chris because he worked all the time, yet they were constantly having money issues. They were living way beyond their means and way beyond their needs. They had filed for bankruptcy once already, and they were headed that way again. But Christopher felt that there was enough money coming in between the two of them to pay for the house. So why was there never enough money? He said that he didn't talk to Shanann about how bad things were financially, and he didn't want the household money to be abused in the way he felt she was. In hindsight, Chris felt that they needed to find a more affordable school for the girls. Since Shanann worked from home, daycare and school should not have been a full-time option. The girls should not have been taken to daycare from 7:15 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. 5 days a week. Celeste was not even 3 and Bella was just 4.
I do agree with that. I mean, I sat home and I'm still sitting home for a while right now because my little one gets out at like 11:45. So until next year, I won't have another full-time job. So I'm here doing videos with you guys, and it's very fun. I love doing it. Thank you guys. Whoever's still here with me, thank you.
A lot more to this story, but Christopher thinks a lot was kept from him in regards to finances. The girls going to a $500 a week daycare was something Christopher was not allowed to have an opinion on. He also knows that there were many things with their finances that were kept from him. Christopher did have the girls' records sealed right after sentencing, but he does not remember signing anything in regards to this. No one seems to know why he did this. He says it was a stipulation for his plea agreement, but he was not clear-headed at the time, and he says he still doesn't remember everything that happened during that time. To me, it's very suspect. Why would that be part of his plea agreement to have his daughter's records sealed? Like, that makes zero sense to me. I do understand why a parent will want to seal children's records, but I don't understand why it would be part of his plea agreement. Christopher has always been the kind of person that does whatever he's told to do. Also, by his own admission, he had a hard time telling people who worked under him, even at work, to do something that he found easier to do himself. He felt emasculated and found it very hard to take the lead in any circumstance. Emasculation is a very serious thing. It has even been said that it can reach what is called a malignancy level that can result to even killing. Many emasculated men turn to drugs or alcohol. Emasculation definitely builds resentment to the point that if it is not talked about, it could come out in a very dangerous way. But we don't know if Shanann knew Chris felt emasculated. He certainly admits to never telling her much of anything that he felt he wanted to change within their relationship or family dynamic. According to Chris, he was afraid of Shanann, and that's why, even up until the end, he did not tell her about Nikki. Chris never learned coping skills, nor how to be assertive. Chris said that the last time he challenged Shanann during an argument and tried to hold his own, she got very angry and screamed, quote, "Get out of my house," unquote. He says she kicked him out and she wouldn't let him come home until the next day. And he said he had to do some huge, quote, "please forgive me's," unquote, in order to be let back in the next day. After that, he decided he wouldn't argue with her again. He would just take it. He did.
That's so sad. I mean, it really is. I mean, I wish he would have had the balls just to talk to his wife. Things may have ended up very differently. We might have 4 beautiful souls still with us. Maybe Shanann would have started, maybe they would have worked things out. Maybe they wouldn't have. Maybe they'd be divorced. I don't know. But he should have opened up and spoke that way if that's how he felt. So that's his fault for not doing that.
Did say it wasn't like that all the time. He says that there were many happy times, many more happy than sad. Let's get back to Nichol Kessinger. Christopher did not tell the FBI this, but as soon as Nikki told him that she wanted to have a first with him, he started planning how he could kill the baby so that he could give Nikki their first together. Ugh, you guys, and to think that baby was planned. And that baby ended up being the son that Christopher always wanted. Yet because Nichol Kessinger wanted to have his firstborn son, Christopher decided that he had to get rid of the son he was already having with Shanann. I mean, you guys, it doesn't get any more fucked up than that. It makes my stomach turn. Especially because at first, Nikki told Chris she didn't even want children. So her telling him that she wanted to give him his first son was, in my opinion, an obvious way she was trying to keep him. There are rumors out there that Chris wanted to get rid of that baby because he didn't believe that it was his. But the truth is, according to Chris anyway, he wanted to get rid of that baby because it was his, and he did not want it. Not with Shanann.
You know, I've seen you guys, a couple of you in the comments have said that you thought one of the kids and Nico was not going to turn out to be Chris Watts. I don't know. I don't believe that. You guys got some proof or something to show me, or the reason why you think that. I'd be glad to hear it out, but I do not at all believe that. I believe Shanann was a very faithful wife. And I believe that Nichol Kessinger found out she was pregnant, got super jealous, and wanted that pregnancy to be ended. And I believe that she gave Chris the pills to take to North Carolina, which I'm sure she's going to go over. So let's continue.
Not anymore. Christopher did not try one single time to talk to Shanann about any of their problems until the very morning that he took her life. He says he just couldn't confront her. He says as soon as the girls all left for North Carolina, he had a new sense of freedom. And Nikki latched on very quickly, even though he was married with 2 daughters. She wanted him to stay with her every night. She had not yet included Chris in her friend circle, but she was ready to right before the murders, and we do know she messaged Charlotte about Chris the day before the murders. According to Chris, in the past, Nikki had been in an abusive relationship. So when it was over, she deleted most of her social media. Her mail went to her father's house like she was hiding from someone. He said that Nikki took medications, but she never told Christopher why. He suspected that she was bipolar. Christopher said that Nikki was in their family home twice, which was July 4th and again on July 14th, coinciding with Nichol. On July 4th, Chris had the day off of work and he spent the night at Nikki's and they slept in late that morning. Chris says when he got up, he checked his phone and there were a lot of missed calls from Shanann. He knew she was going to be really mad, so he went outside to call her back, and of course, she was beyond pissed. She was absolutely furious. He decided to just go home for the rest of the day. He went inside to let Nikki know. Nikki got very angry. They were supposed to do something later on that day, but Chris told her he was just going to go home for the day. This was undoubtedly the first time in their short relationship that Nikki realized she was now number one in Christopher's life. She may have thought that Chris was having second thoughts, and had she just left him alone for the rest of the day, he may have come around. But later on, she showed up at his house with the ruse that she wanted to help him build a healthy protein diet plan. Chris says that time she didn't look around the house much. He feels that she couldn't allow him to be alone, that she knew that if he was alone in that house with all of the memories and photos of his family, that he might decide that his life was too good to give up, or that maybe there was a deep enough love inside him for his family that could have been brought back to the surface again. But no matter what, Nikki made sure that she was always in contact with Chris, desperate to keep him from thinking about his family as much as possible. And I would say that's in my opinion, but it is also in Chris's opinion in hindsight as well. On July 14th, the second time that Nikki went to his home was the time that Chris and Nikki went to the Shelby Mustang Museum. On the way home, they decided to stop at his house before getting something to eat. When they were there, Nikki played with Jeter, the family dog, who ended up leading her upstairs. Good boy. This time, she could see what things were like in their life. All the pictures of Bella, Celeste, and Shanann, the girls' playroom, the books. According to Chris, she came downstairs with the most frozen, dazed, confused look on her face. She must have realized for the first time the life that he was living and the family that would be broken to pieces because of their affair. He says he saw a look of despair, and he put his arms around her, leading her to the couch. As they lay on the couch, she said to him, quote, "You have all this, more than most people, and we are doing this? Why are we doing this? Are you willing to give all of this up? Is your relationship with your wife that bad?" Unquote. He says he explained to Nikki that he and Shanann had drifted apart and they didn't talk anymore. Yet he wasn't even sure in his own head that he believed that fully, but he could see the deficit in their marriage. He then told Nikki that before he started seeing her, he and Shanann had actually decided to have another baby. He says Nikki completely freaked out. Nikki started yelling, quote, "What the fuck are you doing with me then?" unquote. He says he saw something in her that he had never seen before that made him take notice. Nikki said, quote, "Your relationship couldn't be that bad if you and Shanann were trying to conceive," unquote. Chris said he tried to get her to stay and talk to him, but she left the house. She went outside to her truck and she sat there for 30 minutes, texting him. In his words, he had to, quote, "talk her off the cliff," unquote. She wanted him to make her feel better and to come after her, but he didn't. As Christopher thought about this, he realized that this is actually one of the things that turned him on about her. She allowed him to calm her down by telling her he did not want another baby with Shanann. He, of course, says he withheld the information that Shanann was already pregnant. He told Nikki that the plans to have another baby were before he met her, and he had done it as a way to possibly save their marriage, but it wasn't working. Though I really don't think Shanann was looking at it that way, as Chris would tell Nikki. I think Shanann was thinking that they decided together to have a third baby, and they were blessed that it was going to be a boy. But Chris would end up telling Shanann that his reason for wanting another baby was to help save their marriage. Nikki ended up coming back into the house. She told Chris he was the only man she had ever met that tried to fix problems, smooth it over, and talk things through. And he thought, ironically, he never tried to do that with Shanann. In his mind, she probably wouldn't listen to him, yet he realized he never gave her the chance. They actually never really talked about things. He had always just let her make the decisions. Nikki asked Chris then to come over to her house as if nothing ever happened, and they went back to her house. They made love. Chris says that Nikki tried for it to be hot, passionate love and did some of the things that would normally turn him on, but this time their lovemaking felt different. He felt the guilt rushed back to him, and he really didn't want to be there. When they made love, Nikki even felt it was different, according to Chris. They normally would have had sex 3 to 4 times a day, but after that happened, he said their sex was down to only 1 to 2 times a day. When they were finished making love, Nikki told Chris, quote, "I got mad because I thought I could give you your first son. When you told me you and your wife were trying to have a baby, that made me really mad and it scared me," unquote. That statement made Christopher much more confident in a relationship with Nikki. After all of that, Chris and Nikki went to the Bandamere Speedway races on July 21st.
Notice how she's taken him on all these male places that a man would want to go, and all Chris's favorite places. He liked cars, he liked these races, he liked everything he liked, she took him to. She knew exactly what she was doing the whole time, and I believe from this point on out is when she started making her evil little plot.
And camping in the mountains on July 28th and 29th. Now, there are people saying that Nikki admitted to going to Chris's house after Bandamere Speedway on July 21st. When I was listening to that, I heard her say my house, not his house. And I'm going to play it for you right now, and you can tell me what you think.
I don't know what we did after Bandamere. I think we just went to my house. I'm almost positive. I don't think we did anything after that because it was pretty late.
Okay.
So I'm kind of on the fence about this one because that's not what I hear. And I don't know if you guys want to listen to it. Tell me what you hear.
I think we just went to my house.
She says, what the fuck does she say? I don't know what we did after that. We probably just went to my house.
I think we just went to my house.
That's what I think she said. There's actually like a glitch in the sound, and you can't really hear what she says there.
I think we just went to my house. I think we just went to my house.
Now, according to other channels, she says, I don't know what we did after that. We probably just went to his house. I thought the same thing because I was listening to what other people were saying, and I was hearing that. But when I was listening to it myself, I heard, I don't know what we did after that. We probably just went to my house.
I don't know what we did after Bandamere. I think we just went to my house.
So everyone's hearing.
Yeah. It sounds like she said we just went to my house.
His. I'm hearing my. What do you guys hear?
I don't know what we did after Bandamere. I think we just went to my house.
I don't know what to say, you guys. I hear her say, we probably went to my house.
I think we just went to my house.
It just lines up better than we probably went back to his house.
I think we just went to my house.
All right, I'm going to drop that. I'm going to leave that up to you, what you guys think. So that's why I'm kind of just going with the 2 times. I don't believe she was only at his house 2 times though. And the fact that they both have the same dates and it's almost like scripted, I feel like they figured that one out. So I don't believe that she was only there 2 times necessarily, but I don't feel like we have 100% proof that the 21st could be considered as one of those times for a fact. Only
I think she was there the night that Shanann came home. I really do. More and more information is coming out to where she may have been just ambushed when she walked through the door. Her bags weren't open. Nothing was out in the shower. Nothing had looked like she tried to get ready for bed. It doesn't make sense the way Chris explains it. Let's continue.
because of what I just said. So, okay, let's move on from that. Now let's talk about the last family vacation to North Carolina. Shanann and the girls had already been in North Carolina for 4 weeks when Chris left to go meet them there. While Chris was at the airport, Nikki sent him a text telling him to, quote, take this time to fix the issues with your wife and enjoy the time with your family, unquote. According to Chris, this gave him a warm feeling of no pressure, and he really loved her for it. The first night Christopher arrived in North Carolina, Shanann was complaining of a really bad headache, and Christopher told her he would get her something for it. He says that Shanann thought she was taking an over-the-counter pain reliever, but what he really gave her was an 80-milligram tablet of oxycodone. He said that the pill made her really sick, and Shanann was up vomiting most of the night. Shanann spoke about this to her friends, though she didn't know that it was because Chris had given her an 80-milligram tablet of oxycodone. All she knew was she was up vomiting all night long, and she felt terrible, and that Chris had never even gotten up to help her.
Which we later find out was Nicole's idea, and probably her pills.
Chris said he didn't help her because he wanted her to lose the baby. He felt that he had given her a large enough dose to have a miscarriage. He texted Nikki that he wouldn't be able to call her. He could only text her. And she replied to him with, quote, why not? Are you with her? Unquote. In his mind, he had been thinking that she wanted him to spend time with his family, but her reaction put the pressure back on him. Obviously, she wanted him to spend time with her no matter what. Christopher was used to trying to please the woman that he cared about, and right now he cared about Nikki. So for the next 8 days, he ignored his wife. At night, when Shanann would want sex, he would leave the room. He says he was not intimate with Shanann during that entire week that they were in North Carolina. He felt that he had to do this in order to disappear so that he could talk to Nikki for hours on the phone instead. In my opinion, Nikki had him feeling like he was cheating on her with Shanann. That's just my opinion, but I feel like he felt guilty if he were to sleep with Shanann. When Chris returned from Colorado, he went to Nikki's house using his work truck. And that day, Nikki gave him a key to her place, which she withheld from the FBI. We know she never told the FBI that Christopher actually had a key to her house that she provided to him. But this exchange told Chris that Nikki was ready to take the next step forward in their relationship. So he told Nikki that he was moving forward with the separation. He promised Nikki his relationship with Shanann was going to end, even though he had not yet talked with Shanann about a separation at all. Meanwhile, in Arizona, Shanann, still reeling from the horrible North Carolina trip, in the hopes that they could still fix their marriage or at least try to work on it, ordered a book and had it mailed to Chris, hoping that he would read it before she got home. When he got it, he didn't even open it. He just threw it in the garbage. Christopher said he realized that day that he could not have Nikki and his family at the same time. It was time to get rid of what was standing in the way of his and Nikki's being together, and he could make that happen. He had his nerve up, but the nerve he had was not to talk to his wife about their problems. it was to kill her. And this is all just so flippin' sad because Shanann had no idea. Christopher never told her anything. And while they were out in North Carolina, they made plans to have a little family vacation at Myrtle Beach. Shanann may have thought that if they got away together for a few nights, they'd be able to work things out and make things better. She tried to do that. By Christopher's own account, he says Shanann really wanted to talk, but he wouldn't give her any time to talk or try to come together. Christopher was not willing, nor did he have any desire for things to work out between them. The only reason he was there was for the girls, not Shanann. But he says even the girls were on his nerves. He had very little patience with them, and it was blatantly obvious. Anyone around him would have noticed that he was aloof and unfriendly, which was very out of character for Christopher. But even his 3- and 4-year-old daughters' spirits noticed the darkness in him. Their pure little spirits could see or sense his dark spirit, and they did not want much to do with him. You can see that in these home videos. They didn't want to hold his hand or walk and play with him on the beach. Normally, they loved playing with their dad, and he loved playing with them, but not during these days. They didn't want anything to do with him, and he really didn't want much to do with them either. His mind was on Nikki. This was the first time Christopher said he had ever felt like that about his kids. There has been talk of evil surrounding Christopher. He says it himself, and it's in this book, so we're going to get there. But I believe that children can see things that sometimes adults can't. They're innocent and pure, and within the paranormal community, there's a belief that infants and toddlers are much more sensitive to someone that is evil or has evil intentions. It's believed that they have a more open mind, and they don't have those mental barriers that adults develop over time.
Well, a kid knows how the father is all the time, and he was very interactive with his kids. He sang to them, he held them, he comforted them. He was a very, on it dad. He was on top of it. I mean, I'm sure they sensed that he wasn't really there. He was making excuses to get away. He wasn't dad. And I'm not sure about all the dark stuff in it, but I think before he got to North Carolina, while Shanann was gone for those 4 weeks, I think that's when Nikki started getting all this crazy love spell stuff going on, if she did have the chance to do that. Supposedly she went and saw a spiritual advisor. So that could be a lot of the dark stuff that Chris is talking about. And that stuff goes up pretty high. I mean, this whole occult thing goes up. There could be just things that could happen to Chris if he was to, say something's being held over him. He says he is taking the plea and he's not talking, but now he's saying he's willing to talk and he's willing to bring up other people that were involved. And now, since he said that, we see all the flood back about this case coming online, and it just makes me wonder if the strings are being pulled at a higher level or not.
In order for a spirit to be seen by a human, the human needs to be open and non-judgmental, and that describes children. So while the girls probably didn't necessarily sense that Chris was going to harm them, they could possibly sense his spirit being opposite of theirs. Not necessarily something to fear, but certainly something that they didn't want to be around. When Chris left Nikki's that first day he was back from North Carolina and she gave him the key, he had to hurry to meet Shanann for an ultrasound. But what should have been a joyful time for them, Chris says he felt almost a hatred for Shanann and the baby. As they were doing the ultrasound, he could see this new life moving around inside, but he only felt indifference and coldness towards Shanann and the baby. He said he didn't even let it register in his mind that here was his son, the son he had always wanted, and he felt nothing for him. He says Shanann reached out to take his hand in support, but he pulled away. He wanted no part of her or this baby. He wanted a completely different life. On the contrary, Shanann was excited. She gave a friend the envelope that revealed the gender of the baby and had invited friends over for the big reveal. But Christopher was obviously not happy. So, since it would have been awkward in front of all their friends that they were not the usual couple that they had always been, she ended up canceling that gender reveal party. A day or so later, she asked that friend, who is Nicole Atkinson, to give her the envelope back that had the gender written inside. She then texted Christopher asking him if he wanted to find out with her the gender of their baby. He texted back yes. She then texted him back that she loved him so much, and he didn't respond. Later on, she asked him to hold her or hug her, and he says that he refused. Christopher was cold. He shut her out. Shanann told her friends that they had been talking some, so she thought things were a little bit better, since he found out that the baby was a boy. But according to Christopher, he was just trying to make things work for his advantage. He was already thinking about killing her and the girls. Later that evening, as they were getting ready for bed, Shanann brought up how cold he was when she wanted to hold his hand at the ultrasound appointment. He said he told her his head was just not in the right place, and he couldn't deal with her right now. He told her he would be sleeping on the couch. She said to him, quote, "Whatever is going on, or whoever she is, know that you will never see these kids again, so make sure she's worth it," unquote. And with that, she slammed the door with him on the other side. He says he waited until he figured she was asleep and called Nikki. He slept on the couch that night, and the next night he stayed in the basement so he could call Nikki from there. He had decided his marriage was over, but he had not yet told his wife. Shanann, still thinking about the fight between her and Chris's parents and how much this must have affected Chris, sent pictures of the ultrasound to Ronnie and Cindy, introducing them to their grandson in an attempt to start rebuilding what had been torn down. They said they did not respond to that message. Nikki, on the other hand, was excited where things were going with her relationship with Chris, and she started to tell her friends about Christopher. Christopher says this is why he deleted his Facebook account. He said he knew that Nikki's friends might see that Shanann was pregnant. I don't buy any of that. Nikki knew, and I find it very difficult to believe that Nikki did not bitch at him for it. Like, I find it very hard to believe that Nikki knew Shanann was pregnant, which I do believe she knew this. There's no way she didn't. She's looking up her Facebook. She knew. And I cannot imagine that she did not bring that up to Chris at all. Like, what the fuck, your wife is pregnant. And that's why I really think that she knew it was a son, and that's why she said, I wanted to be the one to give you your firstborn son. Like, the baby's not even a girl. It's a boy. Now I can't even give you that. Anyway, Chris taking down his Facebook account was a further signal to Shanann that something was wrong. It was a definite red flag, but it was still important to her that she saved her marriage, so she did what she knew best. She booked a couple's weekend in the mountains in Aspen. She found someone to watch the girls, and Christopher agreed to go, yet he already knew he wouldn't be going. He said he went along with it just to satisfy her for the moment, but he had already been planning how to kill her and the girls, and he was daydreaming about getting rid of his quote-unquote baggage and starting a new life with Nikki.
So who do y'all think came up with the idea first to get rid of Shanann and the kids? We think Nicole came up with the idea, or do we think Chris really came up with the idea by himself? He wanted to annihilate his whole family. Because that's just hard for me to grip and wrap my mind around.
His new life, he would be able to dump all of the things of his old life. His house, his mortgage, his huge bills, his family. He was completely delusional. Shanann had another trip coming up the following day after returning home from North Carolina. She had a trip to Arizona with Thrive, and she thought about canceling this trip. Christopher, of course, did not want her to cancel the trip. He saw that as an open door to be able to see Nikki, so he told Shanann to go ahead and go on the trip, and that they would talk and fix things when she got home. That everything was okay, it would be all right, just go on the trip, do your work, and when you get back, we'll talk, we'll figure it out. This gave Shanann a flicker of hope that things may be getting better, so feeling somewhat relieved, she decided to go ahead and go to Arizona. Christopher would tell Cheryl and Cadel that he felt that God gave him 3 chances to turn around from the affair and the things that he was planning in his mind. One of those times was an evening that he was on his way to Nikki's house. and he felt God's urging him to turn around and not do this. But he kept going, knowing the whole way there he should turn around and not go to her place. While ignoring that feeling, he says all of a sudden his car started to skid, like it was going to run off the road. He says he almost lost control, and he knew immediately that God was trying to turn him around. There was no other explanation for why he started to lose control of his car. He knows this was his first chance that God gave him to get out of the situation. At the same time, he was falling out of love with Shanann, and in love's place were thoughts of trying to get rid of her and his kids. He now thought that he had fallen into love with Nikki. Or could it have been he was just in love with the way Nikki treated him, with the way she made him feel? According to Chris, Nikki was not like anyone he had ever met. He loved her touch, her conversation, her beauty. He thought she brought out the best in him, yet she actually was bringing the darkness out of him. He had an addictive craving for her when he wasn't with her. As with any marital affair, the lies began to get bigger and the deception grew. Christopher says that during this time he felt dark. He felt that he had definitely changed, and not for the good. This may sound like he's blaming the murders on something else, but he says that's not the case. And, darkness would have to fill a person who could plan to kill his entire family because he had a mistress he would rather be with. Is it possible Christopher was temporarily insane that morning, or oppressed by a dark spirit? Whatever it was, it prevailed.
I think he was oppressed by Nichol Kessinger, and I think that she had put so many dark thoughts in his head and make him feel like there was no turning back. So I think she may have even threatened to put stuff out there if he had chosen to be with his wife and family over her, that she would let everybody know about the fair on Anadarko, and made a couple threats to him. Those are the couple times he had to talk her down off the ledge, besides the one time I already mentioned. But she, from the beginning, can you guys see how she has played along everything from the beginning? And this isn't even when you get up to her interviews, when she lies to the police, she tampers with evidence, she deleted her phone messages. I mean, I just wanted you guys to see this so we can get a baseline on why we need Nichol Kessinger to be more thoroughly and fully investigated into this case. She needs to be charged. Whoever else is involved needs to be charged. And let's continue. We're almost through it. We got about 20 more minutes, guys. Whoever's hanging in here with me, y'all are awesome.
And in hindsight, it's not hard to look at it as a darkness that was hovering over the Watts home that fateful morning of the murders. Chris's dark plan was lurking over their home. There have been a lot of YouTube videos out there about spirits and sightings that were left in the Watts home. Many people have said that these are the spirits of Shanann Watts and the girls. But is it possible that Chris brought that darkness to the house, and that it's not Shanann or the girls haunting it, that it is something much more sinister, something that may have been there before the murders even took place? I personally would like to think that Shanann and the girls are in a far better place than stuck inside that home, reliving the horrors that happened to them. Christopher talked about how eerie his house was after the murders. He would also say that the evil that he felt hanging over him stayed with him for some time after the murders. Another thing Christopher did not tell the FBI was that the thought of killing his girls did not just come into his head the morning of the quote-unquote rage. This was something he had been fantasizing about for a while. He says he planned both Shanann's murder and the girls' murders. He says that when he was distant and withdrawn from Shanann, in his mind, he was planning how he could kill her. He said he had been having these thoughts for a couple of weeks. He continued to tell Cheryl and Cato over and over that he knows, had he not chosen to have an affair with Nikki, he would never have killed his family. Though he does know why he killed Shanann, Bella, Celeste, and Nico. By his own admission, it was because he wanted to be with Nikki, no matter what, even if that meant he needed to kill his family so he could be free to be with her. Now, it's said that the average time an affair usually lasts is 6 to 8 weeks, and the relationship between Chris and Nikki was well within that time frame. Had it been under normal circumstances and had Chris been left alone by Nikki the times that he asked to be left alone, even just a little bit, he may have turned around. In hindsight, Chris feels he would have turned around, but Nikki was very persistent. She kept pushing to be in Chris's life. Chris expressed to Nikki that when he was with her, he didn't even think about his family. When he was talking to her, he didn't think about his family. And knowing this, she made sure that she did not give him very much space to think about his family. The question is, why did Chris feel like he couldn't just leave Shanann and have a girlfriend? I mean, normal people who fall out of love don't just kill the person that they're with to be with someone new. So why was it that in Chris's mind, the only way out was to kill his family? It's been said by Shanann's mother and Shanann herself in text conversations with her friends that while it would have been very hard to lose Chris as her husband, she would have let him go. She would not have caused a fight to keep him if he told her he was in love with another woman. In fact, one of the things that he even admits that she told him was to get out of the house and not come back if that was the case. He could have just done that. He could have just left the home and not come back. But for some reason in his mind, that wasn't even an option that was floating around. Killing them was the only option floating around his head. One thing that is normally done when someone is arrested for murder is a psychological exam. This is a test that's usually done automatically along with the toxicology report. Neither one of these things were done on Christopher. Christopher says he was told at the same time by his attorneys that if he allowed them to do an exam, that anything he said could be held against him and the courts would hear everything that he said. Since he ended up pleading guilty, that really shouldn't have mattered to him, but for some reason, that meant something to Christopher, and he did not want a psychological exam done. His parents say they would still be willing to pay for one, but Christopher says he doesn't want one. And I can only imagine the reason why he wouldn't. My guess would be that he's afraid of what he might find out. Why he wouldn't. My guess would be that he's afraid of what he might find out. Which would be worse? To find out you're insane and realize you don't live in reality? Or that you're not insane, yet you still have the capability to murder your entire family? It is interesting how society imprisons people without even knowing the difference. We know that a normal thinking person doesn't think about planning to kill their entire family simply because they want to be with another person. We also know that there are many times this has happened. Two other men by the same name, coincidentally, have a lot of similarities with Chris Watts. Christopher Coleman's case from 2007 is almost parallel to the Watts case. Christopher Coleman murdered his wife and 2 sons, and he received 4 life sentences. And he's in the same prison as Christopher Watts.
That was a really, really sad case, guys. If you haven't seen it, you need to look at it or let me know, and we'll do a show on it, because that really, it was a horrible case, too. I wouldn't say it really gripped me as much as the Chris Watts case, but it's hard. It's a hard case to listen to.
Another case from my very own state, Christopher Vaughn murdered his wife and 3 children by shooting them in the face at close range with a shotgun. Christopher Vaughn talked later on how there was a real darkness and evil around him. Right after the murders, similar to Christopher Watts, Christopher Vaughn had no remorse. When the police were questioning Vaughn later, he refused to even look at the pictures of his family. The police said that even they felt such a darkness in Christopher Vaughn that it was scary. He wouldn't even use his wife or children's names or put the children's names with their photos when asked by police. He had completely separated himself from them. When thinking about infamous murders that occurred under some sort of evil within a home or a person, my mind immediately goes to the Amityville murders, where on the early morning of November 13th, 1974, Ronald DeFeo Jr. annihilated his entire family and claimed that demonic voices told him to do it. Ronald DeFeo fatally shot his parents and his 4 younger siblings while they were asleep in their beds in their home in Amityville, New York. Hours later, Ronald DeFeo would show up at a nearby bar begging for help. Many times, crimes of murder are committed in the heat of the moment as a crime of passion or while lost in a fit of rage, but Christopher Watts said he never felt the emotion of anger or rage until the morning of August 13th. He says he went into a rage at the time of the murders and could not stop during his first confession. Yet, he told Sherilyn Cato that he was not in a rage that morning. He said that Shanann made him angry, but when he killed her, he was not in a rage. As he explains the murders to Sherilyn Cato, he wasn't in a rage until he got to the oil fields. Not to mention, if he had been planning the murders, as he tells Sherilyn, then he didn't suddenly go into a rage. Even DA Michael Rourke stated during sentencing that Christopher Watts calculatedly planned these murders. Yet, how is it that the crime scene at the oil fields was so sloppy? He left so many items of evidence just lying around out there.
Because maybe he didn't get rid of the bodies there. Maybe maybe he had help. I mean, he can't seem to answer how the kids got killed with 100% certainty. He's always wishy-washy on what happened with the children, because maybe he doesn't even know. I'm just saying, maybe he had help and doesn't even know how his daughters were murdered. Maybe I'm starting to think that Shanann was ambushed when she first walked in the door, and that maybe he made a deal with the devil and it was a little too late to back out.
Christopher talked about the birthday party that he took the girls to the day before the murders, while Shanann was still in Arizona. He said that over the last couple of weeks, the girls had steadily gotten on his nerves, and he couldn't remember any other time that the girls had ever been bothering him so much. He said that while at the birthday party, he couldn't concentrate on anything that was going on around him. He was in a fog, yet it was helping to pass the time, and it kept the girls occupied. It kept his mind active with thoughts of killing his family and clearing the slate and starting over. All he knew was he would have rather been with Nikki. She was all that he could think about, causing him to feel that the girls were rubbing his last nerve. He planned to kill them that very next morning. He has said repeatedly he really didn't want to, but he knew that he would. One would think that if this was a well thought out plan, that it would have included hiding evidence. But Christopher didn't even try to hide evidence. When asked about that, he said he didn't know what he was doing and that nothing made sense. He also says that it didn't help things that day that Nikki kept texting him and telling him she wanted him and she needed to see him. One thing he still can't explain is how he felt so pulled towards Nikki when he wasn't with her. After Christopher came home from the party with his daughters, he says he grilled some chicken breasts and packed his lunch for the next day. He cleaned the kitchen. He then bathed the girls, read them bedtime stories, and put them down for the night. He said,
Why bathe your girls if you're going to kill them? I mean, it just make this make sense. I want it to make sense so bad.
That he spent the next hour and a half or so talking on the phone with Nikki. According to Christopher, they had phone sex. In Nichol Kessinger's phone records, this call was shown as lasting for 111 minutes. Christopher says, quote, "She had a hold of me, pulling me into her. I couldn't escape. She was like a drug that you get hooked on, and I couldn't get enough," unquote. He didn't want to stay with Shanann another day. He said, quote, "Nikki was all I could think about," unquote. Yet, according to both Chris and Nikki, despite being so close and talking about everything and being on the phone for 111 minutes the night before the murders, while he was clearly planning on killing his entire family the next morning, he didn't say anything to Nichol Kessinger about that during that conversation.
Yeah, right.
Had Christopher even planned what he was going to say to Nichol to make sense of what happened to his family when they suddenly showed up missing the next day? I hate that phrase. I can't believe that phrase just came out of my mouth. Showed up missing. Like, people will say that all the time. Turned up missing. How do you turn up missing? How do you show up missing? That's like completely opposite. If you're showing up, you're there. If you're missing, you're gone. Anyway, Christopher would say that when his children were put in bed, they would usually stay there. But that night was different for Bella. She kept getting out of bed, wanting to know when her mommy was coming home. Could it be that she had a feeling something bad was going to happen? I can't even think about that. Those poor kids. Like, I can't even go there. The following I have taken directly from the book, and it contains, in Chris's words, what happened on August 13th of 2018. And I do want to say there are more details in this confession than in the 2 confessions we've already heard. The second.
Alright guys, we're going to end the video here. It's right at 2 hours. It's got a little bit more left, but the next one, what we'll do after this, we'll get into a lot more of the interrogations, the interviews, all the stuff, all the lies out of her mouth, out of the if you made it this far with me, props. You guys are real true crime fans and want to see justice done, because that's what I want for this case. But I do need to know what other kind of cases do you guys want to see? Because Chris Watts, as much as I want justice done, I am tired of seeing his face. So I need to do a couple other videos in between these Chris Watts videos. So, alright, well, I'm going to go for the night. I just found out I have my own first member on the channel, so thank you. I'm going to put this out for that member, and then I will put it out to the public so you guys can see it, of course. But, bye. Have a great night. I will see you guys tomorrow. Stay safe. Always trust your gut.